Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm John Featherston, the President and CEO of RISMedia, and I'm delighted to have you join us for Lessons in Leadership. For those of you who are new, our host today is Dermot Buffini, the CEO of Buffini Company, the largest coaching and training company in North America. Buffini Company holds a unique position in the marketplace. They've had more agents and coached and trained more brokers than any other company in the real estate industry. They've had a major impact, and they've coached and trained over 3 million professionals across 45 different countries. That's right, 45 different countries. They've helped millions of agents, brokers, managers, and business owners not only build great and lasting businesses, but they've also helped them lead fulfilling lives. Dermot has been recognized as an RISMedia newsmaker and stands as one of San Diego's top leading CEOs. Under his leadership, Buffini Company has consistently been awarded one of the top workplaces in San Diego. We're honored to have Dermot here today, and he'll be talking leadership insight with another great guy, Walter Schneider, the chairman and founder of Waltmar Capital. Please join me and give a warm welcome to Dermot and Walter.
Well, great to see you, John. Thanks a million. And welcome everybody back to Lessons in Leadership, our last one of the year. And we have a great one for you. The purpose of this webinar is to help you, whether you're leading yourself, whether you're leading your brokerage, large company, it doesn't matter. We want you to learn from other people's experience, from people who've been there, done that. We've got a man here today who, I don't know anybody who actually, as an individual, has probably been more successful in the real estate space. He's a proud Canadian, a serial entrepreneur, a philanthropist. I almost popped my teeth out saying that, a philanthropist, and an active leader in his community, a real giver, a gentleman who started, it wasn't just, he didn't come into the real estate franchising world as a non-realtor. These were real real estate people. And Walter and his partner, Frank Polzer, entered the franchise business in 1980 with RE/MAX. And they built an absolute empire, not just in Canada, but in Europe, in the Middle East. They grew it to 47,000 agents across 36 countries, 2 continents, and basically made up a third of the entire RE/MAX network. So we have a great leader joining us today, a great family man, and someone who's been a great friend of myself, and Brian, my brother Brian, over the years. So Walter, sorry for the long introduction, but I had more to say, but I narrowed it down. Welcome.
You can keep going. It was nice. I didn't mind all that stuff. Hey, you keep going. Fill the whole show, and I can just sort of sit here and nod nicely. It'd be kind of fun. But thank you. Thank you for those kind words. Nice to be here. Thank you, John. Thank you, Dermot. Thank you.
Right. Well, John, we're going to go for about 30 minutes here, and then maybe at the end here, if you have questions, please type them in. We're going to answer as many of your questions as you have about today's market, what's going on in your world, and any questions you have about leadership, and we're going to have Walter here answering as many of them as we can. So, John, we'll see you in about 30.
Enjoy. Have fun.
Thanks a million.
Thanks, John.
Well, Walter, I really appreciate you doing this. I know how busy you are, and I meant every word. And as I said, I could keep going with your rap sheet is pretty impressive. You know, you're not just recognized inside the real estate space as a great leader and an entrepreneur, but you've been recognized as CEO of the Year by the Financial Times, by the David Foster Foundation 2017, just recognized as one of the best business leaders. But I also know you as a very practical, down-to-earth, genuine person who's just done extremely well. And as I said, I know you're super busy, but thanks a million for doing this today.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.
So let me ask you this: who's a leader that you have admired, and why?
You know, I think you floated some of these questions before we started this, and I struggled with that. There wasn't anyone in particular. I think I think you learn little tidbits from all kinds of people as you go through life, and I think that, you know, when you're in your 20s or 30s, you're impacted differently than when you're in your 40s or 50s, and then later in life, as you get more mellow, I think different people. So, you know, to pick one would not be fair. So I think it's a combination. There's political figures that have inspired me along the way. There's been, you know, people of industry, captains of industry. There's been sports people that have inspired me to just watch how they carry sports teams, whether hockey teams or football teams, or based on their backs. And then, quite honestly, I get inspired by people that have, I'm thinking about one in particular, that I've had a chance to meet, one of a Canadian Olympian who dealt with some mental illness and some challenges, but was successful in winning an Olympic gold in the summer and the winter games. So there isn't one in particular, and I'd be doing the others disfavor by saying so and so, but I think it's a combination of a whole bunch of people, so.
I also heard you say that, there's different seasons when you need different things, right? As you said, like what you need in your 20s or your 30s. But what would you say is your leadership style? How would you describe it?
Well, I think I've never expected anybody to do anything that I'm not prepared to do myself. And anybody that's built an organ, I would probably call myself an entrepreneur first, and then I think you kind of morph into leadership from there. Excuse me, I'm just dealing with a slight cough here. So I've always done this in my career. I've chased success. I've done that. I've really tried to build organizations. I've been very fortunate. What the world knows me for is a lot of RE/MAX stuff that we did. We've done a lot of lower profile, but just as successful financially and impactful as some of the RE/MAX things we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been exciting what I've really tried to do in my business experience, and I think that then morphs into leadership, is I've really fished around a lot of different spaces and had a chance to learn. Obviously, real estate business has been very good to me, and I've done very well. We've done well by it. But there's a lot of other businesses where you learn other styles and other approaches. I think at the end of the day, a great leader has to be a sales and marketing person. I don't think, no disrespect to people who are on the financial side of things, but you've got to be a visionary. You've got to be someone that sees things that can be, what's the opportunity that you can see that can morph out of something. I've been able to see things how they can be and then sort of work towards it. I've learned a couple of things as you build organizations that it typically takes longer than you expected. But whatever that goal is that you're going to do, it'll use more energy than you anticipated or budgeted for. And the third thing is you're going to go over a budget. And when any people have brought me plans, business plans, my wife and I right now are in the middle of renovating our home here in Toronto. And I should have known better, but it's taking longer than expected. Using more of our energy than we anticipated. And God, we are really over budget. We are really, I never knew the little kitchen knobs could cost so much, but anyhow, so it's just, I think that one of the things I can tell you that we try in our business behavior is I have a phrase called cost of distraction. And a lot of us allow things to creep into our lives that distract us from we've really been pretty good at being laser focused on what we want to do in life. We've learned how to say no. I think one of the flaws I had early in my career was I think in the sales and marketing business is yes hinged. We try to say yes because we want to please. Yeah, yes, of course I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. And I learned how to say no.
Yeah.
And that was a key lesson that I had along the way. And it took me some time to learn that because it's not nice to say no.
No.
Can you come to my party weekend? Sorry, I can't. Can you come and speak at this event? Sorry, I can't. And it's painful to do that because we as humans we want to please, right? We want to say yes, we want to please, we want to make people happy. So it comes back to this cost of distraction. So keep this thing inside the guardrails, focus on where you want to go. It's interesting. Right now, we're in the middle of 4 projects, construction projects that we have going. We have a couple of buckets at Waltmar Capital. Maybe I should help you out with that. We're in the loan origination business here in Canada in a big way. We're obviously in real estate. We have a lot of real estate assets that we deal with. We have enterprise, what I call my third bucket is enterprise, where we invest in different types of companies. We've invested, we've overseen, we've run. And the fourth is what I call other. And that's the eccentric part of what you look at. This back to this cost of distraction, we find things creep into our agendas all the time, and we've got to say no. And so that's back to my earlier point. It's very difficult to say no when you're yes hinged.
Well, did you find, I don't know, like as you were saying about leaders who meet you in different seasons, when you're building a business, you got to say yes to a lot of things because you don't know what to say no to.
Yeah, that's true.
And then eventually, you get something rolling, and then you got to be more discerning, and then the cost of pursuing that yes. And I think that
great leaders, though, Dermot, surround themselves with super talented people. We have an incredible CFO here at Waltmar Capital. Chris, and I've known Chris for 30 years, and we're kind of the same vintage and super smart. You really great leaders really need to surround themselves with smart people. Park your ego at the door. I think that's what I probably find least likable when I meet people at certain leadership positions, when their egos come before their functionality. And we've been pretty tame about that. We really kind of don't want to garner attention. Typically have wanted to just kind of be under the radar. Sometimes it's tough, but you just surround yourself. Look, have passion. Here's the four kind of pillars in my mind of any kind of organization. Number one, anything that starts anything. Number one, you have to have unbridled passion. It's the kind of stuff that, I've sat in airports in Milwaukee and Des Moines and other places on snowy February nights at 11 o'clock, hoping I can make a kind of connection to get to the next town and get there for 1 o'clock. You and Brian know all these things. So number one is passion. Number two, when you start an organization, you need to make money. It's great to be passionate. And a lot of people get themselves locked into the artistic interpretation of what the craft that they're doing, but they don't make any money at it. So at the end of the day, you got to cover your overhead. You got to pay the bills. Number three, you got to create asset value in an organization. And number four, which most entrepreneurs don't want to acknowledge, but there's a thing called exit or succession. And right now across the United States, I think there's something like 300,000 businesses across the U.S. that have an owner 65 or older who has no succession plan or exit plan.
Yeah, right.
So these are all parts of leadership, and you have to understand. It's your point about seasons. Different things happen, and you've got to grow leaders behind you, and you've got to let people. One of the toughest things about us as we've built organizations is we certainly had a certain style of doing things, and then you empower certain people to do things in that function, but they don't do it as the way you do it, and you sit there. It's kind of like the cook in the kitchen. My late mother was an incredible cook, but she would get really irritated if people would come and work with her in the kitchen. And sadly, when she passed, a lot of the recipes that she just had in her head were never passed on. And so as a great leader, when you empower somebody to do something, let them run. It's not going to be the way you did it, but it might be better too than the way and accept that, right?
Well, can I jump back a little bit, because I'm curious about, you started in 1980. You and Frank Bolzer were probably two of the greatest characters I have ever met. Not just great characters and great fun and great to be with, but like talk about focused. And then at the same time is, you guys, you just seem to have a special chemistry and focus together. So let's just start back, because a lot of people here they're not in the stage of the business where you are. They're getting going. How did you guys, what was your philosophy together, and how did you make it work? Because I never saw you guys compete with each other. I just saw you guys completely complement each other. So what would you say, how did you make that work? And secondarily is, what was your focus that it worked together when you started back in the day?
Well, it's a numerous things. I mean, Frank, as you know, passed last year, sadly. We had an incredible 40-year partnership, but I think we had a friendship first. And so that was the first thing. We were aligned in a whole bunch of different things. Culturally, we were aligned. I'm of Austrian heritage. He was born in Austria, came to Canada. I was a product of immigrants that came from Europe. So there was a lot of familiarity, a lot of commonality there. It was part of the immigrant journey, which I think you only can talk about if you've lived it.
Yep.
But there was certainly that. We had a passion for the product. We sold off each other's strengths. I think we capitalized off each other's strengths. I like kind of two line mates, two line mates and a quarterback and a receiver, a quarterback and a running back. In hockey, with a center and his wingers. There's just this symbiotic relationship that the two, I don't know how to explain it. It was just there. And then I think the key things in the partnership were that you were aligned with your goals. You dealt with conflict resolution very quickly, because sometimes you wouldn't be aligned necessarily, and you figured that out, the solution. You didn't let things fester. And I think the most important part was nobody kept score. And there's sort of 50-50. It's like I've been blessed with a marriage of 37 years, and it's 50-50. That doesn't work. I mean, each person comes into a relationship or a partnership with different strengths, his or her strengths. And Frank and I, we had different. Certainly, I was 26 when I started with him. He was 46. He had some of the gray hair. I think he brought some maturity. I brought youthful energy. I mean, it was all those things aligned, and and we kept on resetting goals all the time. We'd hit certain thresholds, and then I think one of the things people don't realize about success is that it's very difficult to become successful. It's harder to stay there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You guys, you did have a special chemistry, and it's one thing to take on Eastern Canada where it's, and grow into Europe or into the States.
Your back.
But you guys went to Europe. Like
we went to the US first. We went to the US first, and we spent a big, more than a decade launching a US operation. Then we went to Europe, right?
Did you have to lead differently? Did you have to adjust your leadership style or your approach to meet those markets?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things we've got humbled very quickly. Our first foray in the US, we were very highly successful in Canada. Our first foray into the US was New England, and we kind of, you get confidence and you say, oh well, it's just same old, same old. And it's not. I think what you have to understand is that each market has its own nuances and difference. It's like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has a sweeter formula the further south you go in the United States, because the palate of someone in Georgia is different than the palate of someone in Illinois. And so, and if you go to spicy, the U.S. has more spicy foods in the southern Cajun foods in Louisiana than it does in Michigan. So you stay inside the framework of something, and then you understand that this market, this opportunity has different nuances, and then you adjust the nuances. I mean, your Irish heritage, I'm sure things how you were familiarized in Ireland is different in Southern California, where you make your life now. And
do you think because we have a lot of similarities in our personality or how we do business, and we've had many a great dinner that I tell people that you've treated me to, and I've never, but anyway, we won't bring that up right now. But one of these days,
we should bring it up. Karen, it's your show. You can.
I got a bagel with your name on it somewhere in your future. One of the things is, I think it's, maybe, and I'm just brainstorming this out with you. I think we're both relationally transactional. So build a relationship first, connect with the people first, the transactions will come. Would you? I mean, because I think that's something that is a very European thing. Like your heritage, you said, from Austria. It's like it's very hard to borders are like this wide, and there are people on either side, and they're so different. But you have to connect, and you have to have harmony. And I think a lot of what you said from making a partnership work is the same thing about growing across different cultures. I think if you have the framework, as you said, about being relational and being genuinely interested in people and noticing the difference between the food, the politics, the football, do you think that's why it works so well in Europe for you guys, where you did build a relationship first, and then you also had your eyes on the prize?
It's like, what? It's like, it's a menu, right? And it's part of it. It's part of what I always try to do in my business career is I try to give people a lot of things: relationships, comfort, role model, demonstrating that your willingness to do things that you're expecting them to do. It's like, the general that sits on the back of the hill and is not prepared to get in the trenches and fight with the troops is not truly a general in my mind. So they need to be able to, you need to feel the hardships, you need to feel the pain, you need to talk about pain points, because people see a successful organization, they say, oh wow, look at that successful organization. They don't see the journey that it took to get there. They miss that. They miss that stuff, right? And they forget. Then I think what's very important once you lead an organization is to allow people to experience the unattainable, or things that where we were always very, for instance, and especially with the franchise owners, we took them to NFL games on a private jet. We put them on the sidelines before a game. We got people experiences to get backstage and get backstage passes and meet entertainers frontline. I think all of us enjoy those rare experiences. That giving people access to rare experiences is very important. Validates the relationship. And so that's always been part of our MO. We do that right now in Waltmar Capital. We continue to do that. We have really cool social events. We have access. Fortunately to what we do, we have access to a lot of venues and so forth. And so we try to. People will remember the experience. It's like going to a great restaurant, Dermot. You remember the experience, you forget what you ate.
It's true. And I will tell you, that's something that I have learned a lot from you. I mean, I'd like to think that we're pretty generous in what we do and taking our clients, but I think you're next level. I think sometimes it's very easy. We've done this where we've missed the opportunity to connect with people because we're running into the town and we're going to do our seminar and we're going to do our job and serve the people. And sometimes we've forgotten to kind of, hold on, how do we enjoy the trip? How do we create an environment for somebody to create that dinner or to create that experience? I think you've done an exceptional job of that as your company. It is so important.
Well, and it's interesting, I mean, it's funny with I mentioned my CFO earlier. We do a lot of that now, and Chris will say to me, why are we spending money on that? I said, because it's really important. And then we go and we do that, and then after the event, he'll say, they really love it. I said, yes, they did. Because again, you want people to have these memorable, at the end of the day, Dermot, what do we really have? We have these memories, right? These moments in time that we experienced on a show, or, an event, or a sports event, or a magical dinner, in a magical location. I remember having dinner with Brian in Greece many, many years ago, and we were looking at the Acropolis, and I have no idea what we ate that night, but I remember the Acropolis being up in this hill all lit up, and I remember, you were down that run too, or David Lally. Yeah, David was there, and so I remember going through town in this kind of a rickshaw, kind of a little scooter thing, and we were peeing our pants. We were laughing. It was so funny, this little thing, how they were able to maneuver. Anyhow, that host, our Greek host that night, gave us an incredible experience. And
it's funny you should say that. Brian was just telling a story from that dinner 2 weeks ago. We were out golfing at a charity event, and he was telling that story. So, I can validate this. Everything you've just said, I actually have experienced from you, and I deeply appreciate that. My waistline hasn't always, but I've enjoyed it. But no, it is. It's such a huge piece, and I think as well, I think it's very important for all of us to be reminded of this, because as the quicker the world has become, COVID created a weird dynamic. I don't know what you think, but I think that is still so important, even probably more valuable today than any other time.
Well, there's been a lot of scar tissue that came out of that, and it's interesting. We hosted a big party last year in December of 22, and obviously COVID was already on this tail, but a lot of people had not been out socially, and and they would came to us afterwards and just said, thank you for giving us this opportunity. Look, at the end of the day, people want to feel, my wife has an incredible gift, and that is anybody that has a conversation with her feels that they are only talking to her. I mean, you've been with her a number of times. Yeah, and she has this incredible ability to center in on that, and I've watched her just do that, and it's genuine. It comes from the heart, and so I've learned a lot about that. When you're talking to somebody, make them the singular focus. A friend of mine has an interesting saying. He says, "Be interested, not interesting." It's very, in the sales and marketing business, in this whatever the leadership business, make that person feel great about how important they are to you, what they mean to you, and you can reaffirm that. I go to sporting events, and you get these these terrible towels that they toss and they're sitting on my seat. You know, I always bring them back and I give them to a staff member. Every time we have a little habit. This sounds really corny, but our staff here loves it. I still travel, not as like I used to, but I still travel, and I take 5 or 10 minutes and I send a postcard to our staff from where I am. That sounds like really retro, and it's just like, you know, here in Kansas City, missing you guys, you know, here in Vienna, here in whatever. And I can tell you, we have a lunchroom in this building, a lovely lunchroom, and one of the staffers has taken time, and all those postcards are on one of those cork boards. I mean, it really, if you think about what that is, it's a 50-cent postcard with a $50 stamp, right?
But you're staying connected with them and making them feel connected with you while you're on the road, and say we're in it together, which is
That's right.
brilliant, brilliant. Tell me this, what do you look for in leaders? Like, as you said, you're looking for the ingredients of somebody who you're like, whether that's somebody you sold a franchise to, it's an individual agent who's getting into the business, it's somebody you're employing now in this next season and these next businesses. What would be the couple of things that you're looking for as regards, they're the attributes that I know that person's going to be successful?
Well, a whole bunch of things, you know, obviously work ethic, you know, passion. How do they communicate? Are they clear in their communication? Is there conviction in their communication?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody can say something to you, like, you know, but they say it with conviction and with their soul and their heart. Do they have passion? Do they have understanding? Do they understand that, you know, some people have challenges, and when is that, you know? But here's the other thing, you know, society today has been very interesting. Maybe because when I first started out, this is how it was, but we seem to have lacked the accountability factor. There seems to be this spreading of blame or cause. I find myself in this circumstance because this caused it. And along, you know, in my business journey, in my personal journey, we've made mistakes. And when we've made mistakes, you own them.
So good.
Right? You own them. And, you know, and I listen to la 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 la, you know, and I listen to this sort of third party blame that somebody, well, it was the kind of, and my teacher in the 7th grade caused me that. Like, you know, get over it. Like, you know, just, you know what, it's interesting. I think here in North America, Canada, the US, I said this often when I speak, I think we're so blessed.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly our challenges I mean, 1 in 8 kids across the US goes to school hungry in the morning. We've got, you know, homelessness. I know this is an issue in the streets of San Diego. I know that homelessness across the 2 countries, some immigration thing. I mean, there's stuff that goes on. But, you know, it's interesting. I'm the product of 2 immigrants that came to Canada that survived World War II. And my mother came and landed in 1948 at the age of 20, at the age of 21, penniless. Classic story, you know, 1 suitcase, nothing, and $20 in the pocket. My father, the same thing, a year later. And, you know, when I was really, as a kid, heard about their stories about living and surviving the war, the World War II in Europe. You know, hunger, you know, being bombed at, shot at, starving, under military rule. I mean, just the whole litany of things that we see every day on our TV screens, right? And we're seeing that right around the world today. It's happening in dozens of places around the world. I don't know. I've never been shot at. I've never been bombed at. COVID was a bad thing. I was inconvenienced.
Yeah.
I didn't go hungry.
No.
I had warm showers every night or every morning. I slept in a warm, dry bed. I couldn't socialize.
Yeah.
I had a screen like this. I could socialize. I mean, so in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
right? And so I think we have. So back to the leadership question. I think that I think we need to be grateful every day about what we have. And I've said this publicly many times. I think in North America that we live in a bubble. And I think that many of us in North America, speak for myself, we live in a micro bubble within that bubble. And so, you know, we've been blessed. So I think there's more opportunity out there today. It's different than when I was first coming up in my career, but there's incredible opportunity out there. Regardless of what in the real estate business, obviously, and other things. But I mean, look at the amazing things that are going on today in commerce. And you know what people are able to accomplish. Obviously, tech gets a lot of high profile and AI and those kinds of things. But you know, service business. I mean, I mean, look at the Amazon story and look at the, you know, all these different success stories out there. Why? Because some leader had a visionary conviction that he or she was going to, that they were going to go and build something.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. I think I think that's brilliant. I think sometimes we're so spoiled, we're so blessed that you miss the blessing. And I think, as you say, when you understand history, and any great leader I know knows history, they study it, they see it in their own life to say, hey, that was hard. This is not hard. And now I see it as an opportunity. And I think the last thing you said, which is so true, I think it's so easy to feel like they're, well, this happened to me and that wasn't my fault and such, and well, that's happened in the world, and getting distracted by politics or whatever else it might be, rather than, you know, a mentor of mine said to me one time, he said, hey, if you're 2% wrong, own it 100%.
Well said.
And it was so good because it took me out of the, well, they're 98% wrong. And, you know, here's all the things they did wrong. It's like, I get that. But if you're wrong 2%, own it 100%. And I think that does change everything, because now you got a better perspective on, you get your power back, you get your energy back, and then you'll see the opportunities. You won't miss them.
Well, and we're healthy. I mean, you know, think about people that deal with, you know, physical limitations or other kinds of challenges. I mean, how blessed we are, right? I mean, how blessed we are to, you know, to live at this place at this time in history. It's interesting, you know, this morning, 1 billion people got up around the world. Well, 2 billion got up this morning looking for food. And 1 billion got up this morning looking for water. And there's only 8 on the planet. So think about that. You know, I live in a country where I think we have something like 35% of the fresh water in the world. So, I mean, it's unbelievable, right? I have a house north of Toronto on a lake, and I get on this lake and I go with my boat around the lake, and I think it's unbelievable, right? And then you see other people around the world that can't just get water. I mean, fundamental stuff, right? Just.
Well, you know, as you say that, I think of, you know, there's a lot of agents right now, brokers, who are yearning for the 6.1 million transactions that took place in 2021 or 2022, the 5.1 million transactions. Now it's like, hey, it's down to 4.3.
Still pretty good.
I know what your perspective would be. There's still some sales to be made.
Yeah, there's absolutely. If over 4 million transactions a year in the US, go out and get some. I mean, ask yourself this question: if you're a successful realtor, what do you need? 20 transactions a year?
Absolutely.
So let's see. If there's let's do the math on this. If there's 4.1 million transactions, so that means there's 4 million 99,080 left for the rest of them. I just want my 20.
And that's 100% the perspective.
It's so simple. You know, the problem with agents, the challenge that you have today is that a lot of agents have a next transaction mindset. How do I get the next transaction? Rather than saying, to my point earlier, I want 20 transactions this year. The average sale price in my community where I live is X, and I'm going to break that down. I'm going to take 2 months off a year or 6 weeks off. What are you going to take off? So I have 10 working months. So if I have 10 working months, I need to get 2 transactions a month, and I get my 20 transactions.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I mean, that's what we do. We do with our clients. We tell them, for every 20 people in your database who know you and refer, you reach out to them, you're going to generate 3 referrals. Out of those 3 referrals, you're going to close 1. And that's what I'm saying. I think about bringing it down to, like, not what, well, you know, we're down to 4.3. There's no inventory. Yes, the interest rates are high. Absolutely. But I'm sure you've seen a few of those dynamics before. But it didn't stop you from staying focused on what you were trying to achieve.
Oh, you know what? My son here, my son Conrad drives our mortgage business here, and he's the biz dev guy, VP of biz dev. And you know, he knows we need a certain pool, a certain amount that's going to drive us. The average, I won't give you the details, but the average deal price is X number of dollars. We have to feed that much into the trough. We close 1 in 3. I mean, it just goes on. And he just drives it out there, and it's a simple process. And you know, and the real estate business, we're so blessed that the real estate business is such a simple business. It is just an execution business. Like, my son-in-law runs a large manufacturing company just north of Toronto. He has 800 employees. He has millions of dollars tied up in manufacturing machinery, and he runs it at a 200,000 square foot plant. And when I talk to Alex and he tells me what it costs to capitalize his particular business, if they need to do a run of something, now they're in the medical products business, so they made a lot of money during COVID, but to ramp up to get you to that point, to produce some small item that maybe sells for $3 or $5. Now you have to sell millions of those items, but notwithstanding, I mean, what does a realtor really need to do? He needs a vehicle, he needs his desk, he needs some phones, obviously promotional materials you talked about. They need to work their farm area, they need to build a referral network, they need to do some coaching, need some for sale signs on lawns. But the capitalization is really not millions of dollars.
No.
It's tens of thousands at the most. And so what, for the opportunity to go out and earn $5, $6, $8, $100,000 a year? I mean, surgeons are making $200,000 a year, and they need 10 years of education and internship to make $200,000 or $250,000.
The capital expenditure is their effort, right? Their focus. They're like that, and a lot of people sitting on it going, well, I'm waiting for things to change. It's like, while other people are waiting for things to change, is the time to go. It is the time to go.
Right. Here's the point. Anybody in business, do what you can control. I cannot control interest rates. I cannot control consumer patterns. However, consumer patterns are a clue for me to where to go and put my fishing rod.
So good.
Where's the fishing? Where's the pond? They throw that's okay. They're going to bite. They're biting on worms today. Let's throw worms in the water. Oh, they don't want worms. They want lures. Lures go in the water. And so you just have to be, with it. I mean, unfortunately, we came through an era and it was a little easy. Right.
Yep, true.
I mean, and I think that we're going to continue. I think we're going to continue to have some listing inventory issues in the real estate business. I mean, we're not going to be able to build enough homes fast enough. I do believe there's a shift in Canada and the United States of moving away from ownership towards more rental. I mean, you get certain countries in Europe that are 35% owners and 65% renters. So I don't know if we're going to go that low here in the US or Canada, but I do believe it is shifting. Then you have, of course, redefining of values. I think you're going to get some millennials and Gen Zs that are going to maybe not want to have ownership. So, but the flip side, you got an expansion of households of single female, same sex, and then you have extended family households. I mean, so when I started in the real estate business many, many years ago, it was mom, dad, station wagon. Nobody knows what station wagons anymore, but it was now minivans or SUVs and a dog. And I sold houses to those. That was the profile of my customer. They weren't single female profiles. They weren't same sex. They weren't, seniors that are buying. It's interesting. What is it? The gray divorce? Like, if I'm not remembering the stat exactly, but in 30 years ago, gray divorce was anybody over 55 was 1 in 10, but now it's something like 1 in 4 or 1 in 5. I think that stat is right. It's pretty. I have to go check my files. But there's a whole new market. So two people at 60 split, having one household. Now they need 2 households.
Totally. We've seen it right now. In fact, it's a campaign we're launching with our clients to say, look, what is the inventory opportunities? People who need to move closer to their kids. The kids get moved around, moving to, different states. People leaving California to go to Texas, Florida, Nashville. It's like, there's a lot of people here who are like, I want to move. And we're like, hey, let's go make that happen. Or people who want a second home, or they want to work remotely. And so, but as you said, it's like, it's as much as things change, sometimes you were paying attention, the opportunity funnel opens up even more if you're paying attention.
Well, it's interesting in the beverage business where we won a Bevco, and we're in the beverage business, one of our many investments. And it's interesting. My daughter-in-law, we have a lake house up north, and she likes an Aperol spritz, but 7-8 years ago, nobody even knew what Aperol was, right? It was like the Campari was the product in that particular sector. Anyhow, there's a shift that went on, and the spritz is kind of like, I guess, with some Prosecco and Aperol they make. I don't drink them, but
that's the trend.
Anyhow. But my point is that became a trend. It's like non-alc beers and non-alc mocktails now, and just the trend lines there. And then we know that this interesting thing is, Tito had I'm not speaking ill of any, but Tito had a sort of a skew that my daughter is gluten intolerant. So she drank Tito because she thought it was gluten friendly. But the truth is, all vodka is really gluten friendly. But you carve out a niche,
and so you make it.
Yeah. I make it right. And so, as your realtor in a particular community, I was watching a hockey game in Nashville the other night, and I won't give a plug to this RE/MAX realtor, but it was interesting in the boards. This realtor in Nashville, his name
Gary Ashton.
Okay, you said it, I didn't. Gary at RE/MAX Advantage, and I thought,
there you go. That's what you know who's out there promoting. I know who's out there promoting.
Right. So I'm going, way to go, man. Way to go. Nice job. Nice job. And but you said it, so that's okay. I can plug it.
Well, look, here's the thing. You and I, and you know this, we could talk all day, and you've been extremely generous with your time, which, by the way, is, I would say, if somebody asked me about Walter Schneider, I would say the word is generosity.
Oh, sweet.
Generosity with your time, generosity with your resources, generosity with your sharing your gifts and your experience. And I can't thank you enough for what you've done today and all the help you've given me. But I know that we want to answer some questions from our audience today, and maybe we can you can impart some of your wisdom on that. So with that, maybe we'll bring Mr. Featherston back up with some questions. Sound good?
Yeah, and by the way, that's not a real fire behind me, just in case you thought it was.
I thought it was coming out of your head. I thought it was like he literally is on fire. Hey, John.
Walter, you did a great job. Tremendous conversation. And before I start with the questions, I have to say, in an industry driven by extremely driven individuals, but let alone teams, Walter, you and Frank were the consummate team. Absolutely tremendous professionals, great representation of our industry across the globe. Frank has lived a long life, and left a tremendous impact on a lot of people. And now, talk about impact. Here you are, and there's a lot of questions that have come across. You say, experience the unattainable. And I think what the questions that are coming through for both of you is people want to know, what do they need to do right now to increase productivity and morale in the current state of our industry?
Me asking me?
Take it, Walter, and then Dermot can jump in as well.
Well, just go ahead. Look, at the end of the day, this is a people business. Talk to people. Pick up the phone. Do all these old corny things. People love social media. Has been a phenomenal thing, but it's been a very bad thing because people have forgot the human contact. And so, just sending me a random email. I mean, pick up the phone, call me, knock on my door, engage. And to earlier point, if it takes 1 in 3 contacts to get a transaction before this slow down the market, and now it's 1 in 6, go out and do 1 in 6. And so, again, I made the comment earlier, this is not a complicated business. Mm-hmm. It's just an execution business, and you got to execute. The challenge of the great thing about the real estate business, you have a lot of free time. The bad thing about the real estate business, you have a lot of free time.
Well, I thought, Walter, you said at the beginning about focus. And when you know what you're saying yes to, you also know what you can say no to. That's what I heard you say earlier. And, one of the things we're doing right now is, people are worried. The rate's gone from 3.2% last year. Now they're up to 7.4. Projected next year to go to 5.5, 4.8. People are trying to read the tea leaves, and there's people waiting to read the tea leaves. And what we're saying to our 20-something thousand customers, like, we're not waiting. Because when opportunity comes knocking, it's going to be too late to prepare. It's time to re-engage those clients you haven't had time to talk to because you've been so busy trying to keep up with multiple offers and, no inspections. And the market has changed. So we're saying to people, it's like, it's time to figure out, start to contact your database, start to reach out to your clients, start to tap into that pent-up demand that is there. And there's a lot of pent-up demand. It's just getting, boxed in based on.
There was an arrogance in the market, Dermot. There was an arrogance. And the arrogance has got to go away. I mean, and you know what? I recall, 4 or 5 years ago when we started Integra North America, going to an event, and I would get lectured from a 2-year rookie in the real estate business about what was this, and I've got the body scars. So look, there's great opportunity. To your point, 4.1 million transactions in the U.S. Go get 20 of them.
Yep. Amen. That's it.
It's really as simple. It's really as simple as that. Now, here's one for you from it looks like a mid-sized real estate brokerage firm. how should he be dealing with his negative agents in this time frame? How do you motivate them?
Well, if you have a negative agent that continues to see I think I said off camera before that one of the great things about our Waltmar Capital is that we got rid of the drama. And if you have that kind of negative mindset attitude in office, I think you send them away. Look, use your energy towards positive to a positive end. If you keep on watering the plant, here's an interesting thing about entitlement. The more you water it, the more it grows.
True.
And so, I mean, this is maybe we're all a bunch of baby boomers here chatting about this, but you know what? There is incredible opportunity out there. And if you just think, if someone is sort of predisposed, my office is crap, your training isn't any good, the secretary, the receptionist doesn't do a good job, whatever. I mean, all the complaints that you get in a normal course of the day. Just say, I'm sorry, I can't make you happy. I'm not going to spend my good energy on making you who are unhappy. It's best we leave.
100%. I mean, I think that, and I think you said it earlier, Walter. There's just some people they're just negative, and so you have the choice to make whether you believe you can help them. Yeah, and I also think that we have a bit of a responsibility as leaders sometimes, just to either acknowledge that and release them and say, nope, you're on your own. But I think that's like you were saying earlier. There's times when I'm a positive person who sometimes can get in a negative mindset sometimes, and it might not last long. But back to your point, it's like if I sit down with somebody and go, what's going on? What's happening? You might find out that somebody's just kind of like, hey, they got the weight of the world on their shoulders. Maybe something's not going right at home and the whole lot. And this is part of coaching. We're able to say, hey, is there one good thing that you can do right now that's going to positively impact your business? And for those people, they're worth it. They're worth getting out of that place to move them forward. You got a group of people who are just out there. They're just go-getters. They're just going to do it.
Here's for any business person. This is interesting. Before I came on air today, I own some commercial properties, and I had a particular lease on a property. This person has been an irritant in one of my buildings, and it's just been an irritant. I can't do anything right. I told them to leave today. The lease is expiring, and I said, go away. I don't want to deal with you. Get lost. Well, you can't just throw me out. I said, well, actually, your lease is expired. Leave. Just leave. And here's the problem. If I don't have confidence that this is it's a great building and we're going to be fine. If I don't have the confidence that in my abilities that I can go and fill that space, I should be out of that business. So if I'm a broker owner and I got negative agents and I don't have the confidence that I can build a good team, hire good people, recruit them, train them, or hire people from the competition, I should not be in the brokerage business.
Dermot, to expand on that, okay, I'd like, before our time runs out, from both of you, what one thing differentiates you two as leaders? Just one thing.
Well, I mean, I think maybe Walter and I both have the same mindset of like, there's always possibility, there's always hope, there's always something to chase after, there's always something to get excited about. But I think Walter said earlier, if you hold on, if you've got gratitude and a good perspective and a passion for something, and that's intact, I just think, you're gonna want to get after it. For us, it's coaching people, it's helping people, it's bringing that person from here to here and seeing them like just transform their business and their life. Like that doesn't change for us. So I like to see that in my team. I like to see that from my friend Walter, from my friend John. I want to see people thrive. And I think just back to Walter's point is like, I like to be around those people more than the non-thrivers, and look for those.
Walter, what one thing for you?
I think the environment we create, I've always created loving, caring, sensitive, passionate environment. And if you don't think you're happy here, then leave.
Yep, that's true.
Happiness has got to be a key fabric of success.
Well, you just rent all this stuff for a while, so you better have fun doing the job.
Absolutely. You both exude obviously tremendous confidence in what you represent, what you do, and who you are. And I think when you said earlier today, experience the unattainable, Walter. Okay, both of you have experienced the unattainable. I'd like you to just spend for a moment and talk to a top agent who is doing well in this market, who is doing more than those 20 transactions. He or she is capturing 30, and he or she's exploring starting a team. What advice would you give that person who's doing well but wants to get that next level?
Well, okay, in life, nothing stays static and it's never the right time. Those are two of my guiding mantras. Nothing stays static. This morning, you'll be different tonight and you'll be different tomorrow morning. So to this agent who wants to go from 20 to 30, nothing, it's never the right time to start building this team. Which he or she has to learn is that the journey of building that team from 20 to 30 to 50 to 70 is different stair steps along the way. He or she can't vault themselves into a 50 team person if they've never been more than 10. So at 20, there's be certain dynamics, at 30, there's gonna be certain dynamics. And so just vault yourself up. And but I really believe this. It's like exercise programs. It's never the right time. I'll start January 1. I'll start after my birthday. This is nonsense. This is just nonsense. Start now.
Yeah. No, it's great. I think what we see with teams is you see people who are like, they build their business by comparison. It's a bit like somebody going, well, they've got 2 kids, so maybe we should have 2 kids. Well, okay, maybe, but you might want to actually, they're fun to make. They're hard to bloody raise. You better want them. Like what Walter said earlier, it's like, you better want this business. You better fight for it. It's too hard not to. One of the things we do when we're coaching teams is there's a lot of people we coach who have a team, and we coach them out of that team. We're like, you don't like people enough to want to lead them. You're not prepared to do the work. They're a burden on you. They drain you. So we've worked people out of teams by saying, that's just not who you are. Whereas somebody else, it's like, well, let's build a team that complements it. Walter said earlier, hey, this is my environment. Well, I didn't think about my environment. Now I got a bunch of people in there and you're like, what have I created? So I'd say be thoughtful. Just because it's happening out there, you better want it. And then be intentional. Get some help. There's a lot of people who do it successfully. Unfortunately, most people don't. Yeah. Because they don't know what they're getting into.
A lot of people just settle too, by that I mean is that when I bite into something, it's either going to be extraordinary, I don't want to do it. And it's it's who I am. Whether it's building buildings or company or an event, it's got to be extraordinary. I want the experience for someone to be extraordinary, that something I hadn't seen before. If I can't do that, then I don't want to participate.
Walter and Dermot, if there ever been 2 shining examples of 2 professionals in our industry who have exemplified being extraordinary, it's the 2 of you. And I think as a person who spends his life watching our industry, observing, writing about it, I started with 1,000 followers. I have hundreds of thousands of followers now reading what we do. Why? We don't settle. Dermot and Brian don't settle at Buffini Company. And Walter, your organizations have never settled for anything other than success and an incredible experience. With that, we're running out of time, and I know that Dermot would like to showcase a schedule of a free business consultation.
Yeah. Well, this came up in our last, and John, we appreciate you because you've done well and your business has done well because you're genuinely interested in the industry and the people and serving the need. On our last couple of calls, I've had people going, well, I'm in this business. Do I have a team? Should I have this? What should I do? This is a great time to reset and find out where you're at. And so we have these free business consultations that you can, if you want to find out whether you're a broker, an agent, a teams, you just want to go, hey, I want some insight, a different perspective of my business. You can just sign up for a free business consultation here, and they will genuinely walk you through a little bit of your business, what the possibilities are, and they're free. And at the end of the day, whether or not you decide to do anything with us, it doesn't matter. We want to provide value to you, maybe set you up for free perspective to go, what are the opportunities today? And then also, how do you work through your strengths at this time? So we'd love to give that out to the audience today. And hopefully that sets you up for, next year because you're doing the work this side of the year. So yeah, hopefully you find that of value. I know a lot of people do. So
Well,
thanks
I
for that.
think, speaking from a person who's seen Buffini Company and you particularly, Dermot, in action, I think people who are tuning in today would be remiss not to please check this out. And unfortunately, we've run out of time. And it's been, I think, a wonderful another episode of Lessons in Leadership. Thank you, Dermot. And thank you, Walter. And continued success to you and to everyone who's joined us here today. We appreciate all the attendees, and we hope that you enjoyed the conversation and found this valuable and engaging as I have. So Dermot, thank you again. Walter, thank you for a great job in bringing this diverse and insightful leaders together.
Fantastic. Thanks, Walter. Thanks,
Thanks,
John.
guys. Have a good one. Stay safe.
See you.